Hey everyone, welcome back to Unscripted Coding. Today we're going to work on a pretty quick project that has to do with what I do day to day. I usually look at a lot of contracts, and you can imagine most of the time they come in either PDFs or Microsoft Word. And they're horrible because you don't get to format them, you don't get to run them through a machine. The formatting's just all over the place. And one of my own pet peeves are the contracts that come in multiple columns. I have no clue why people do that. Anyways, what I wanted to say is I wanted to use Markdown day to day, and a great example of this is GitHub, who, their legal team uses GitHub to start drafting documents, and you can see that they've used Markdown to create this employee IP agreement. And it's fairly basic, but they're using Markdown, which is a markup language, so that they draft it all in plain text like this, potentially on Notepad, probably on something like VS Code. And that makes it much easier to version control, to do all of these cool things that computers can do without the hassle of Microsoft Word. This all works just by getting the syntax right. So for example, this double star, and I should probably zoom in. When you surround text with double stars on either side, it means bold. This is a header. One dot will start creating a numbered list. And you'll see very quickly that you have the bold, you have the header, you have the numbered list, 2, 3, 4, but it's fairly limited. Take a look at this contract. It's not that much more complicated, but it's a numbered list within a numbered list within a numbered list. Empty fields. So you can really start fiddling around with it. I have a couple things linked, if you want to take a look at the Markdown, what's built into Markdown, you can check out commonmark.org. You'll see you can have links, you can have different types of headings to get to this type of format. So this kind of heading or this heading will give you heading 1, heading 2, and so on. So, what is it I wanted to do? Well, one of the things I've been working on is a site called reference.legal, and there's going to be a lot of documents on there. But if you haven't pieced together from some of my other videos, one of the really important things about longer contracts is the ability to jump to different places. This document is not very long, and neither is my demonstration, but if you have a 40 or 50 or 200 page document, it's very hard to reference something if you don't have page numbers, if you don't have numbers. So when you expand this, you have headings, numbered headings, and you can say 4.1.2.3 and go all the way down to get to the right point. And part of how this works was actually numbering the headings, which I've done on a previous video. What I want to do now is, this is for my site, but I wanted to generalize it a bit for my day-to-day work. Basically, be able to parse through a document like this and put the right numbers in, and also create the right references. So for example, this development service contract, actually, it doesn't have it. But you might have a paragraph here that says, refer to section 3, obligation of confidentiality, or something like that. Refer to section 1, refer to section 2. And you want to be able to start linking them together. And you want to build it dynamically is the key here. Because we're not going to do the numbering. One of the worst things I've seen are lawyers that add a paragraph here and spending, 10, 20 minutes renumbering everything, charging their clients along the way. It's incredibly inefficient. If I auto number, I have to make sure the references also reflect the right numbers. Okay, that is a long way of saying I want to build an editor, something like this. It's going to be much simpler, much easier, but you take the Markdown, you parse it into regular Markdown, and I want to click a separate button that will clean it up so that all the headers are numbered and all the internal references are properly cleaned up. I've done some of the coding for my own website in the past. What I want to do is actually bring this over to something more general, and it'll definitely be on my JS Fiddle, and I'll probably put it up on my GitHub if it works semi decently. Okay, so why don't I get started? But I thought I would just bring this over really quickly. What I'm using first is GitHub Markdown CSS. This is an MIT licensed open source set of stylings. And what's beautiful about it is that it looks like the GitHub brand of Markdown. There are different ones. A header is a header, but it might look like this in VS Code, or it might look like this. Quotes or fields. Let's see if I can find one here. Okay. Fields might look like this with red text, or they might look like, yellow text. So everyone's doing it a bit different. I'm starting it off with GitHub CSS style, and then I have taken my standard empty template. So I'm probably not going to use Vue. I never do, but I'll use jQuery and Bootstrap just to get this looking nice and moving it forward. Okay, that's a lot of talking. Let's start working. Hey everyone, we're about 20 minutes into this video, and you can see just by using a lot of components, you can get very, very quickly things done. So we're using Marked.js. There's a bunch of parsers and compilers out there, Showdown, Markdown it. But basically, all it's doing is it's taking your Markdown and converting it to HTML. And so over here, all we gotta do is paste a bunch of Markdown, or you can see the edits as you change it into this page, and it spits out the nice HTML. We're using CSS, the GitHub CSS. And finally, I, for my own purposes, would also like to see the HTML, because ultimately this is what I want to give people to put up on the web page, to put up in other documents. Markdown, pretty popular, but not so much in the legal world. HTML, still not very popular, but a little bit better. Okay, so what else I did was I added a button here. It's terribly placed. We'll find a better place for it, but you click clean, and what it's going to do is number all of these headings. And I have stolen this code basically from a previous video. You can take a look at it. Before, I made sure I didn't need the whole recursive piece. I'm putting single documents in here. But why I needed to start talking again is because this document actually doesn't have any references to itself. So again, I took this from Daniel Beardsley from Docracy. It is available online, and I just quickly copy and pasted and basically put in some hashtags to put the right headers in. But when I was reading this document, I like that it's very simple, but the copyright exceptions, this is an opportunity for me to put a reference down. So normally something like this is, okay, let's read the text really quickly first. Copyright of all products, blah, 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 will be transferred to the client upon receipt of payment in full. Oh, actually, I guess they've written it very well. But let's pretend this is badly drafted contract. Let's take this out. Upon payment in full, and then it gives you a bunch of exceptions. The developer reserves the right to reuse, relicense portions of the product, blah, 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 license under MIT. What you want to say here, in the case where it's badly drafted, is notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in section, and normally you'd have a number here, let's say section 4. The following exceptions will be made. Okay, this is not a drafting lesson. You don't want to copy it from me, and this is the worst way possible of saying it. But it's saying, despite whatever I said in this copyright section, and I misnumbered it probably, there are these following exceptions. Now, the problem I mentioned before is if I say section 4, and later on, oh, I was right, section 4, and later on, I make a change. I add a section here or here. Somebody's got to go down and fix all of these numbers, and lawyers cost a ton. You don't want them doing that. So what I want to do is actually make use of references. What's really cool about Markdown is that each of these headers are actually given an ID. And this is based on their name. So rate becomes rate. Billable time becomes billable dash time. The rule is it's all in lowercase, and any spaces become a dash. So if I wanted to go, let's just make this a bit more complicated. Copyright rule. No, copyright ownership. What that means is it's going to create a link here, an ID that's copyright ownership. That's how it'll look. What you want to do here is use Markdown's link function. And what you want to do is do hash and copyright ownership. This will create a link to this section. And for me, I might write section 4 over here. And if I copy and paste it into our Markdown tool here, you will see a link to section 4. And if I click it, it should scroll to the right section. That said, because it's all on the page already, the anchor isn't going to go to the top. But if this was a really long document, you know what? We can artificially do it. It will scroll up to the right section. But because it's all on the page already, it's not going to move up. Clean. Oh. And the other thing is it should be section 2.4 given how we've done this. What I want to do is add another function to the clean button so that these links will be fixed. And that should be fairly simple. So I'll be right back to the drawing board and hopefully solve this problem. All right. So this is a really easy project just because I had a lot of code. If you're wondering why, I was copying pasting, I was taking pieces from my own website, reference.legal, to try and make this go quicker. So let's go through a demo and then we'll walk through what we actually did here. So again, I have this contract written in Markdown. You can do it in different ways, but I think this looks pretty nice. You have different fields, you have different headers, and so on. It's actually a bit hard to tell. The difference between this text size and this one is not really huge. So it's easy to see that this, it's not easy to see that this is a subheader to this one. Anyways, you paste it into the editor and you get both the HTML code and the actual how it should look. If we clean it, we get the numbers, but what you'll notice, and I'm sorry, I can go here first. We have a link to section 4. If we clean it, what you're going to see is that this section number has been called out specifically. We've fixed the reference. We've also created a bracket just to make it super duper clear that this is the copyright ownership. You won't have to flip back and forth to figure out what 2.4 is. And then when you click to it, it should get to the right point. One thing we added right at the bottom of our page right here is to actually fix the HTML code as well, so that it has these numberings in the front, 2, 2.1, 2.2. All of this is changed. Couple important things. One thing to note is we completely ditched whatever was written in here. So it doesn't matter if I go ASCF, we will still clean the number properly afterwards. It doesn't matter what you put in there. It is purely this bracketed section. So you have to make sure that the link goes somewhere. Now, the other thing we've done is if you spelled it wrong, so I missed an I in ownership here, it should have alerted me, but it didn't. Let's see. Okay, you know what? We can fix that after. Let's do a code walkthrough first and figure out how this all works. We have included jQuery, Bootstrap, we have the GitHub Markdown CSS, and we also have Marked.js all imported into the various scripts and style sheets. We just put in a style here quickly as well to make it work. This is all suggested from GitHub Markdown. Then I have my very standard header, footer, just to make it look nice. It really doesn't matter. What's important is within the page, we've created one row with a button. We've created one row with the editor. That's this one right here. And then we have one row with both, over here, with both the HTML code and the HTML output. This is just a div, so you can put as many things and whatever you want into it, and it'll just add into it. These two are text boxes. They're 20 lines each. You can fiddle with it. You can make it look different, whatever makes you happy. But this is how they look. Everything comes down to this script. So the first things first, we have this on input property chain binding. This is jQuery, and what it's saying is every time there's any change in the editor over here, if there's any text change, it's going to update and update and update. And I think I might want to clean as I go as well. Update, update. You're not even seeing these, so let's move up. And it's changing. And what I found was I had that on change before. That wasn't good enough. So you need that input and property change to detect everything. I'm thinking here is a good place to put our format HTML as well, but I don't know if that'll make things go too slow. Next thing is we have our couple helper functions. We have 3 functions: number headings, that's obviously to number each headings, and link anchors, which is to clean up these references. And then finally, we have a function, format HTML, which basically calls this helper function and this one. And finally, we have to make sure every time we make changes to this HTML, we move it over to the coded version as well. So that's where the last line is. After we do all the cleaning, we get the inner HTML and we spit it out as the value of HTML code. So the numbered headings, it's very simple. We just count how many H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6 headers there are. And over here, we just start giving it numbers. Once we've done the count, and as we go down the list, we just prepend a span in front of it. I put a span in front of it so that I can very easily remove these numbers if I wanted to, but you can just spit it right into the text as well. I have another video talking about this, so I'm not going to go into detail. Where I want to go through is these link anchors. What I've done is taken the element, and I've only taken this element, and then I went for find all of the links. And as I go through the links, what I want to find is that the first thing it starts with is a hash, because this link right here has a hash, which means it references right inside this document. Oh, there we go. This one doesn't. It doesn't have a hash, and therefore it goes elsewhere into the internet. And so I don't care about this one. I care about the internal references. And we find that with the hash. Remember when I said if there was a broken link, I'd do a pop-up? I guess it's working now. One of your links doesn't lead anywhere, so you should probably go back and check. It's probably a better way of doing it, but for my purposes, it's fine. Okay, so anytime I find a link that references the internal document, I will run the next function, link anchor. So I give it the same element and I give it the link. I find out where it's supposed to go. So what it's looking for is this right here. And of course, we do it properly. And of course, we know that one of these headers has that reference, copyright ownership, right here, copyright ownership. And what it's doing is it's finding that ref, and so it's going to look like this. The next thing we do is do a quick check. Make sure there is one. So I search for an ID that says copyright ownership. I'm using substring to strip out that hashtag. In this case, if there are no results, I'm going to say one of your links don't lead anywhere. The other check I could have done, and I've removed entirely, is if you have multiple headers with the same name. So it's very easy to say terms here and terms there. I'm pretending that the person drafting knows you're not supposed to do that. But that's another thing you can check, another edge case you should be checking. If we don't have an answer, if we don't have a proper link, what I'm going to say is every time you click that link, it's going to say one of your link does not lead anywhere. And I don't even think that's right. I think I should just remove this entirely. So that as soon as I clean the function, it's going to tell me that something's wrong and you should look at your text. Okay, so what happens if you do have a header with the right name? It's going to find the header, so I find it based on its ID, and basically I'm going to change the text of that link, that ASDF, and I'm going to pull that header name. So first of all, since I'm running this after the numbered headings, I'm going to find the span and get the number out. I have a bit of splicing here because this says 2.3 dot. I'm taking out these two, the dot and the space, so you get 2.3. And let's do this. So you get section 2.4. And then I'm taking the name here. Because I put that span, I made it a bit difficult. I gotta take that whole header section. I gotta clone it, remove the front span so that I get just the name over here. It's kind of stupid, but basically I'm taking the text and putting it in front. Brackets, open and close, and that's all there is to it. And so what happens is you have this very dynamic drafting piece. So if I don't want copyright ownership, I want to reference exceptions instead. I clean it again. Going to change the reference to 2.5. Really doesn't matter what I put in the text here. And so you have consistency, you make sure you clean it every time. Now, the last thing I wanted to do is move this into our binding option here, so that every time I do something here, it should be cleaning. And it's not, oh, of course, I gotta refresh. Okay, so it's already cleaning. I'm gonna, every time I change this, it's already gonna know there's something wrong here. But if I go, okay, oh, this is not a great experience. Let's go here, and it'll fix the right link. So now it's going as I go, and it's not as slow as I thought, so that's excellent. Okay, so that's all there is to it. I built kind of an internal tool for me to very quickly draft good documents, well labeled, well updated, all in Markdown. Thanks for watching. Let me know if these kind of projects are helpful. I'd love to hear from you, and you can make your voice heard just by submitting a comment right below. Thanks for watching. See you guys next week.